My name is Karen Moran, 32 years old. I was buried in spreadsheets when my phone buzzed, the shrill vibration slicing through the quiet hum of the office. Mom's name glowed across the screen, and instantly that familiar knot tightened in my stomach. They never called. Texts, yes, short ones, clipped, often requests for money, but not calls. Calls meant emergencies, and I braced myself before answering. Hello? I tried to sound calm, though my voice carried a tremor. Karen, Mom whispered, her tone fragile, brittle, as though it might crumble mid-syllable. I'm not feeling well at all, honey. Dizzy, chest pains. Your father's working all the time, and I'm here, alone. A shaky breath rattled through the line. I need you, Karen. I need your help. The pen slipped from my fingers, clattering against the desk. My mind spun into problem-solving mode before my heart could catch up. What about Linda? I asked quickly, already anticipating the excuse. Linda, my older sister, their golden child, lived only 15 minutes from them. Mom sighed heavily, the sound like static dragging through the receiver. She's so busy, darling. 3 kids, soccer practice, homework. She can't possibly take care of me right now. Of course, Linda was always too busy. Too busy for them, but never too busy to bask in their praise. My lip curled before I bit it back. Mom, please, her voice cracked, a delicate fracture. Just for 2 weeks until I'm stronger. I wouldn't ask if I wasn't desperate. On my monitor, 3 urgent project deadlines blinked like red sirens. My boss had trusted me with a major client pitch next week. My vacation wasn't even scheduled for another month. I could already imagine Tom's frown if I walked into his office now. But how could I say no to a mother confessing illness, fear, loneliness? I exhaled slowly, my chest aching with the decision already made. I'll fly out tomorrow. The relief in her voice came too quickly, too smooth. Thank you, sweetheart. You've always been so dependable. Yeah, dependable. The family doormat. When the call ended, I sat frozen, palms damp. I wanted to believe her fragility was real, but something about the sharpness that returned to her voice unsettled me. Still, guilt propelled me from my chair. I knocked on Tom's door. Got a minute? I asked, stepping inside. It's my mom. She's sick, and Dad can't be there. I need to fly home for a couple of weeks. Tom's brow furrowed. What about the Peterson account, the deadlines? I know. My throat tightened. I wouldn't ask if it weren't urgent. He studied me a beat longer, then sighed. Family comes first. We'll manage. Take the time. Thank you, I murmured, grateful but burning with shame that my reliability had been cashed in again, this time for something I wasn't certain was even real. That night, I packed a suitcase, practical clothes, laptop, a framed photo of Grandma tucked between shirts. She had been the only one who saw me, really saw me, growing up. As the zipper closed, I whispered, I'm doing the right thing. But the whisper didn't sound convincing, even to me. The flight east was uneventful. Clouds parted to reveal patchwork suburbs, tidy lawns, and identical mailboxes. It felt like no time had passed, yet I hadn't been back in 4 years. 4 years without a Christmas invitation, birthday call, or holiday meal. Just the occasional text. Need help with the bills. Send what you can. The taxi wound through streets I once biked down as a kid. My parents' ranch-style house sagged a little now, paint faded, siding peeling. My pulse quickened as I climbed the porch steps. I knocked. The door swung open, and there was Mom. Not fragile, not sick, not pale or weak. Her hair was freshly colored, nails manicured, lipstick precise. She wore a blouse with matching earrings, and her smile was wide, too wide. Mom, I stammered, are you okay? She grabbed my arm, tugging me inside with surprising strength. Karen, you made it. But you said, oh, that was just a little fib, she laughed, brushing off the words with a manicured hand. Surprise. The suitcase slipped from my grip. My brain scrambled to catch up, heart pounding in disbelief. From the living room drifted laughter, voices, the unmistakable squeals of children. Everyone, Mom called out. Look who's here. I followed her into the living room. Dad sat in his recliner, newspaper in hand, eyes flicking up with mild surprise. On the couch lounged Linda, her husband Mike, and their 3 kids, Emma twirling a doll's hair, Tyler glued to his tablet, baby Zoe toddling unsteadily. Karen, Linda beamed, though her eyes were sharp. You actually came. Dad nodded absently. Hey, kiddo. I stared at them all. Mom said she was sick. We're going to Florida, Mom announced cheerfully, clasping her hands together. 10 days? We've been planning for months. We need someone to watch the kids. The words dropped like ice water, my chest hollowed. So, you lied about being sick? To trick me into babysitting? Don't be dramatic, Linda said breezily. It's not like your job is that important. No one will even notice you're gone. My face burned hot, humiliation surging like fire. My boss, my projects, my reputation, all traded for a fabricated emergency. This is what family does, Mom said firmly. We help each other. Linda and Mike haven't had a vacation in years. Your father and I haven't been to Florida since our honeymoon. It's important. I looked around at their faces, expectant, entitled. Not a flicker of guilt, only satisfaction that the trap had sprung. I could have screamed, hurled accusations, stormed out. My body begged for it, rage vibrating through my muscles. But something stilled me. Maybe it was the years of being cast second to Linda, the reliable one, the helper. Maybe it was the sudden crystalline clarity of another option. I forced a smile, voice light. You're right. Family helps family. When are you leaving? The room exhaled in unison, tension dissolving into chatter. Mom clapped her hands. I told you she'd understand. We leave in 2 days, sweetie. This is going to be wonderful. As their voices rose, hotel deals, golf courses, beachside cocktails, I slipped into silence. My smile stayed, but behind it, my mind sharpened like glass. I pictured the glow of my phone screen under the dining table, an airline website already open. They thought they'd won, but they had no idea. The first dinner back felt like a board meeting disguised as family time, everyone polite, smiling, armed with agendas. Mom brought out lasagna, the one dish she'd mastered, and set it down like a centerpiece in a truce. Dad filled his plate first, then Linda, then Mike. I waited, the old choreography slipping over my shoulders as easily as the cardigan I'd draped across my chair. We wrote down their schedules, Mom said brightly, sliding a color-coded printout toward me. The page was dense, blocks of pink and blue, tiny notes in the margins. Bedtimes, naps, snack guidelines. Tyler doesn't like when his food touches. Emma's blanket must be near for naps. Zoe sometimes wakes up at 3. Just pat her back. She usually settles. Linda pointed with a fork. Soccer Tuesday and Thursday at 5. You'll need to drive her. The field is by the middle school. Oh, and no strawberries for Tyler. He's allergic. I glanced at the calendar, then at the car keys I did not possess. Right, I said, letting the word land flat. They didn't ask if I had a car. They didn't ask anything. Mike, who rarely contributed beyond agreeable nods, chimed in with an earnest grin. Thanks for doing this, Karen. We really need the break. He meant it kindly. That almost made it worse. I took a bite of lasagna, chewed, swallowed, ate again, because the action gave my hands something to do while my mind cataloged everything. Emma's soccer bag by the entryway, 2 pairs of tiny cleats drying on a vent, Mom's purse half-zipped on the counter, Dad's wallet peeking from his shirt pocket, the ring of keys on a brass hook in the hall, the click-whir of the old printer in the back room, the edge of a manila envelope visible in the kitchen drawer with my name written sharp across the tab. I kept eating. See, Mom said to Dad as if I weren't there. I told you she'd understand. She's dependable. Dad's fork paused midair. We've been saving for this trip for a while, he said to me, a little too defensively. 1 vacation in 10 years. Your sister's kids never get to see the ocean. Of course, I said. Family helps family. The phrase tasted like a penny. Tyler flipped his tablet around and showed me a paused video of a cartoon dog on a skateboard. Do you like this one? He asked. I smiled for him. Looks cool. He grinned, small and gap-toothed, and for a brief moment the righteous fire dimmed. The kids didn't do this. The adults did. I set the sympathy gently in one corner of my chest, kept the rest of me sharp. After dinner, we migrated to the living room. The kids built a blanket fort. Linda scrolled through hotel photos on her phone, narrating details meant to needle, oceanfront balcony, cabana service, the golf course Mike wouldn't stop bringing up. Mom perched on the edge of the sofa, eyes bright, more animated than I'd seen her in years. Dad pretended to watch a baseball game, though his gaze drifted to the family cluster, the picture of fulfilled plans. I excused myself to my old room. It had devolved into a storage annex. Boxes of out-of-season decor, old yearbooks, the twin bed wedged under the window with a faded quilt. I closed the door and stayed very still. Then I pulled out my phone and called Tom. "Everything okay?" he asked. His voice was neutral, but I heard the careful concern employers learn. "Not exactly," I said. I told him everything. Mom's fake illness, the ambush dinner reveal, the 10-day Florida trip, for which I had been drafted without consent. I kept my tone level. I did not cry. "That's manipulative," he said after a breath. "I'm sorry." "I should have known," I said, not sure who I wanted to blame more. "I'm sorry I left work for this." "Don't apologize. You were trying to do the right thing." He paused. "So what now?" For a second, the old script tried to cue up. Grin and bear it, swallow and serve. I deleted it. "You once told me to take my time off like I meant it," I said. "I think I'd like to try." A smile entered his voice. "Take a real vacation. We've redistributed the Peterson tasks. The team's fine. Go somewhere you pick." "Okay," I said, and the word felt like a match striking. I hung up, opened my laptop, and typed with a steadiness that surprised me. Flights, resorts, arrival dates. I booked Cancun for the day they'd be leaving, an early flight that would carry me out before their bags hit the trunk. A beachfront room, nothing obscene, but nice enough to feel like a choice. I felt a twinge of guilt thinking about Emma's cleats on the vent and Tyler's allergy notes in pink pen. I folded the feeling into a smaller, quieter square and slid it into a drawer. Then I bought sunscreen, a simple black swimsuit, a loose cover-up, sandals. I buried the new items deep in my suitcase beneath practical sweaters and the framed photo of Grandma. I would not explain. I would not ask permission. In the kitchen, while Linda negotiated with Emma about bedtime, "No, the blanket must be with you, not on the lamp." I filled a glass of water and opened the drawer with the rubber bands and batteries. The manila envelope with my name on it lay there, unsealed. My fingers hovered. I didn't take it. I noted it. The awareness clicked into place like a bead on an abacus. The next morning, logistics swarmed the house. Lists, chargers, sunscreen, tiny socks, crumpled itineraries. I walked to a strip mall and bought what I'd need, delegating nothing, asking for nothing. Back home, I slid my purchases under folded jeans. Linda intercepted me in the hall. "You look chipper," she said, mock pleasant. "Sleeping okay? It's about to get real once we're gone. Zoe's a screamer." "I'll manage," I said. I said. "You always do," she replied, and the words landed with the weight of a family crest. That night, I lay awake. Every hinge in the house had its own voice. The front door groaned, the bathroom door clicked, my window squeaked if lifted too fast. I practiced in my head, lift, pause, until the glass sighed into the night. I pictured the bushes beneath the sill, the suitcase's soft thud, the blue wash of dawn. I set an alarm for 4:40 a.m., then another for 4:42, then a silent one, just a vibration, in case the first two betrayed me. On the nightstand, my phone face down. Under the bed, the suitcase handle angled outward, ready. At 5:05, Mom knocked. "You're up early," she said when I opened the door. Her hair was braided for sleep, but her eyes were bright. "I thought I'd run to the convenience store," I lied smoothly. "Grab snacks the kids like for the flight. Less fuss." "That's thoughtful," she said, genuinely pleased. "We leave at 2. Will you be back by then?" "Definitely," I said, and smiled with all my teeth. I walked downstairs. Dad stirred coffee in a mug he'd had since I was a child. "We were thinking of hitting the road by noon," he said without looking up. It was a statement, not a check-in. I kissed his cheek anyway. Outside, the air was pale and cool. I circled to the side yard. The bushes were dewy and forgiving. I lifted the window one slow breath at a time, the frame lifting in tiny increments. Pause. Lift. Pause. Until the lock cleared. I lowered my suitcase out. It landed with a soft, compliant thud. I closed the window as carefully as I'd opened it. At the end of the block, the taxi idled exactly where I'd asked. The driver popped the trunk. I slid in, breath suspended as if the house itself might call me back. It didn't. As we pulled away, a curtain twitched on the second floor. A silhouette crossed. Everyone slept, or they didn't. Either way, I was gone. At the airport, I did not check my phone. I moved through security with monk-like focus, then found my gate and sat with a coffee that tasted exactly like relief. The gate agent called boarding groups. I watched the line thin, then stood and walked, one foot in front of the other, into a life I was choosing. Halfway down the jet bridge, I paused. The instinct to turn back was a live wire. I let it spark without touching it. Then I kept going. On the plane, I took the window seat and buckled in. Only then did I check the time, 6:52 a.m. At home, they were finishing breakfast, corralling shoes, hunting for a missing doll. They would look for me in 10 minutes. In 20, they would call. In an hour, the calls would be frantic. In 2, rage. The thought should have scared me. Instead, it steadied me. I looked out at the wing and imagined the ocean beyond it, flat and blue and uninterested in anyone's story. When wheels lifted and the runway fell away, I closed my eyes. A few rows back, a baby cried for exactly 9 seconds before settling. I counted each one. 9. I could handle 9. The plane banked toward the sun. Somewhere beneath the clouds was a tidy ranch-style house with a manila envelope in the kitchen drawer and a printed schedule waiting on the table. I would face all of that later, if I chose to. For now, I leaned my head against the window, let the hum of the engines fill the spaces in me where duty had lived, and practiced a new kind of dependability, the kind I owed myself. Cancun's air wrapped around me like a humid embrace, heavy with salt and sun. By the time I cleared customs and stepped outside, my phone was vibrating like a live animal in my pocket. The screen glared with missed calls, texts stacked in a relentless scroll. Mom, Dad, Linda, then again and again, their names repeating like a chant. I didn't open a single one, not yet. I set my suitcase in the back of a taxi and slid onto the cracked leather seat. Hotel Playa Azul, I told the driver, my voice steady. The city blurred by, pastel houses painted in fading turquoise and yellow, bougainvillea spilling across fences, vendors setting up for the day. For the first time in days, I inhaled fully. The air was thick but alive. I let it fill me. When we reached the resort, it loomed like a white stone mirage. Arched windows, palm trees bending in the ocean breeze, the sound of waves so close it seemed stitched into the walls. I checked in, my credit card trembling slightly between my fingers, though not from doubt, from adrenaline. In my room, I set my suitcase by the bed, opened the balcony doors, and let the roar of the ocean rush in. Only then did I unlock my phone. 27 missed calls, 42 texts. Where are you? Mom, this isn't funny. Linda, if you're not back in 10 minutes, we're going to miss our flight. Dad, selfish. Linda again. And then, you've ruined everything, Mom. The progression was textbook. Panic, anger, blame. I scrolled through it all, my thumb slow, deliberate, like turning over evidence. Finally, I dialed Mom's number. She answered on the first ring, her voice sharp, breathless. Where the hell are you? I'm in Mexico, I said evenly, at a resort in Cancun. Silence, thick and jagged. Then, what are you talking about? Get back here, right now. We missed our flight because of you. That's too bad, I replied, but I'm not coming back to babysit. You planned this. Her voice shook, but not from weakness, from fury. You tricked us. I laughed, though it wasn't a joyful sound. Like how you tricked me into flying home by pretending to be sick? That was different. We needed your help. No, I said, letting my words cut. You didn't ask. You lied. You let me believe you might be dying, just so I'd show up and watch your grandchildren. Families help each other, Karen. That's what we do. I turned toward the balcony, the ocean wind tangling my hair. Is that what we do? Because from where I'm standing, it looks a lot like I help you, and you take. Her silence was a blade, then flat. You've ruined everything. No, I said softly. I've just stopped letting you ruin me. And I ended the call before she could gather more words to throw. I slid the phone face down on the nightstand, stripped off my travel clothes, and pulled the swimsuit from my suitcase. Black, simple, the opposite of Linda's floral prints and Mom's jewel-toned caftans. I slipped it on, wrapped myself in the cover-up, and headed downstairs. The pool glistened like liquid glass, but I walked past it, down a wooden path toward the beach. Sand clung to my sandals, then to my bare feet when I kicked them off. The ocean stretched limitless, the horizon a line drawn in perfect calm. I stepped into the surf until the waves kissed my knees, then closed my eyes. The sound of children squealing behind me made me turn. Not my nieces and nephew, strangers' kids, chasing foam with plastic shovels. Their laughter echoed, sharp in my chest. I inhaled. I wasn't here to resent children. I was here to remember who I was without the weight of everyone else's needs. I ordered a margarita from the beach bar, condensation dripping cold against my palm. I took one long sip, let the lime bite and tequila burn root me in this choice. For the first time in years, no one was asking me for anything. That evening, at the resort bar, I met him. He was leaning against the counter, scrolling on his phone, suit jacket draped over the back of his chair. His shirt sleeves rolled to the elbow, his tie loose. He looked more like a man between boardrooms than a tourist. When the bartender slid my drink across, he glanced up, smiled. "Vacation or escape?" he asked. The question startled me enough to laugh. "A little of both." He offered his hand. "Jeff." "Karen." We clinked glasses, his whiskey to my margarita. "Business trip that ended early," he explained. "Extended my stay because, well, who wouldn't?" His smile was easy, but not practiced. "And you?" I hesitated, then told him the abbreviated version. Family drama, manipulation, a sudden decision to reclaim what was mine. He didn't look away, didn't dismiss it, just listened, brow furrowed slightly, not with pity, but with attention. "That's a lot," he said finally. "But good for you." I blinked. "Good for me?" "Yeah, most people would have stayed, kept the peace. You didn't." He raised his glass. "To not keeping the peace." I clinked it again, something light breaking open in me. Later, back in my room, I sat on the balcony while the ocean pulsed below. My phone buzzed with more messages I didn't read. I left it face down, the light flashing like a heartbeat I refused to monitor. Instead, I looked at the horizon and whispered, "I'm free." The words felt strange, untested, but true. As I drifted to sleep, one thought curled at the edges of my mind. If I could walk away once, maybe I could keep walking. And yet, when I closed my eyes, the image that lingered wasn't the ocean, or Jeff's smile, or even the untouched schedule left behind on the dining table. It was the manila envelope in the kitchen drawer, my name scrawled across it, waiting like a secret I hadn't yet dared to open. For the first time in years, my mornings belonged to me. No alarms set for conference calls. No toddler screams through thin walls. No passive-aggressive sighs from Linda. I woke when sunlight pried through the curtains, stretched, and let myself breathe without guilt. The ocean lay outside like a living canvas, always shifting, always restless, and I thought, maybe I was like that too. I built days that asked nothing of me. I snorkeled over reefs that glowed like stained glass, swam through schools of fish that scattered like confetti at my movements. I lingered on a chaise lounge with a paperback, my skin warmed to a bronze that would have made Mom shake her head about wrinkles. In the evenings, I ordered food I didn't share, cocktails with colors so vivid they looked painted. And yet, rest felt like rebellion. Each hour of pleasure throbbed with a ghost of accusation. How dare you enjoy this when your family needed you? But every time the thought came, I countered it with another. They didn't need me. They used me. The difference was oxygen. I posted photos, one of the sunset over the water, one of my sand-creased feet with a book, one of the turquoise pool shimmering like melted glass. I didn't add captions. For once, I let images stand alone. Within minutes, the comments started. "Linda, hope you're happy with yourself." "Mom, the kids keep asking where Aunt Karen is." "Dad, nothing, just a thumbs down emoji." I scrolled, then set the phone down, face first, the buzz of incoming guilt muted against the wood. I refused to reply. At the resort bar one evening, Jeff found me again. He carried 2 drinks and offered one like we were already friends. "You look less haunted," he said with a half smile. "Haunted?" "When I saw you the first night, you looked like someone who'd forgotten how to sit still. Now you look like you remembered." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was frighteningly true. "It feels unnatural to relax." "Then you're doing it right," he said. We talked about nothing and everything. His firm, his travels, the absurdity of hotel artwork. He never once asked about my family beyond what I'd already offered. He didn't pry. That restraint was a gift, more than he could know. Still, my family echoed even here. On the 3rd night, I answered a call. Not from Mom, not from Linda, but from Aunt Marge, my mother's older sister. "Karen, it's your Aunt Marge." Her voice was careful, a thread stretched thin. "I heard what happened." My stomach tightened. "What did you hear?" "That you ruined their vacation, that you abandoned them, that you betrayed them. She let the words hang, testing. I stared at the balcony railing, the ocean hissing beneath. Did they mention that Mom lied about being sick to trick me into babysitting? Silence. Then a sigh, low and heavy. No, they left that part out. So I told her. Everything. The phone call, the fake illness, the ambush dinner, the color-coded schedules, the calm mask I wore while planning my own escape. When I finished, my throat was raw. Well, I'll be damned, she muttered. Your mother always had a flair for drama, but this is something else. You believe me? My voice was smaller than I meant. Of course I do, she said simply. I love my sister, but she's always played favorites. I saw it when you were kids. It wasn't right then, and it isn't right now. Her words hit harder than I expected. For years I'd wondered if I was imagining the favoritism, if my resentment was just immaturity. Hearing her say it out loud was like someone handing me proof I hadn't asked for but desperately needed. Thank you, I whispered. Don't thank me. Just take care of yourself. You did something bold, Karen, maybe even reckless. But sometimes reckless is what's left when nobody listens. After the call, I sat a long while, staring at the tide coming in, the moon laying a silver path across the water. I felt less alone. When I returned home a week later, my apartment felt foreign, like I'd been away for months instead of days. The silence was thick, but not heavy. Work resumed easily. Tom greeted me with a smile, asked about Mexico, listened without judgment when I offered only the good parts. I buried myself in projects, the steady hum of productivity soothing after so much noise. For weeks, the calls slowed, the texts dwindled. Then, one Tuesday evening, my phone lit up with Mom's number. I answered, bracing. Hello, Karen. Her voice was clipped, as if rehearsed. Hi, Mom. How are you? I'm fine. How are you? We've been better, she said stiffly. Your father and I, we've been talking about what happened. I waited. What you did was very hurtful. We lost a lot of money on those tickets and reservations. I swallowed the laugh that rose. No apology for lying about being sick? That's not how I'd put it, she snapped. We stretched the truth. I leaned back against my couch cushions. Families don't stretch the truth about chest pains. They don't manipulate their children into flying across the country for free babysitting. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, I cut in. My voice was calm, but inside I trembled with the power of saying it. I'm not saying what I did wasn't petty. It was. But I'm done being your backup plan. If you want a relationship with me, it has to be a two-way street. I need to feel valued, not just useful. Silence. Long enough, I thought she might hang up. Then, quietly, I'll think about what you've said. You do that, I said, and I ended the call. I stared at the phone afterward, my reflection faint in the black screen. For the first time in my life, I hadn't folded. I hadn't softened my words for her comfort. And though my heart hammered, I felt something new bloom in my chest. Pride, sharp and undeniable. Still, her words nagged. We lost a lot of money on those tickets. She hadn't said our tickets. She hadn't said the trip. She'd said money. And I remembered the manila envelope in the drawer, my name written on it, left behind like a breadcrumb. A thought crept in, quiet but persistent. What else had they done in my name? The suspicion wouldn't let me go. That manila envelope with my name on it, it flickered in my mind like a neon sign behind closed eyelids. I'd left it untouched, thinking it was some forgotten report card, or maybe old bank paperwork. But Mom's slip about money lost on those tickets had changed the weight of it. I couldn't shake the feeling that the envelope wasn't just clutter. It was evidence. Aunt Marge called again 2 weeks later. Her voice was lower this time, cautious, like she knew the floor beneath us might crack. Karen, I don't want to alarm you, but you might want to check your credit. I sat straighter. Why? She hesitated, then sighed. Years ago, your parents co-signed something in your name. A family emergency loan, they said. Small, nothing catastrophic. But I also remember your mother bragging once about opening a store account under your name to get a discount. Said it was harmless because they paid it off right away. At the time, I thought, well, who cares? But now... The room spun. I pressed my fingers into the armrest. They opened credit in my name? Just once, that I know of. Paid, closed, no harm. But Karen, you need to protect yourself. You've always been there. Fall back. Her voice softened, carrying both guilt and warning. I felt my throat tighten. Thank you for telling me. After the call, I logged onto my credit report with trembling hands. Nothing glaring. No active loans. No hidden cards. No red flags. Relief swept through me, but it was bitter because the possibility alone was betrayal. Whether or not it had left a scar, they had crossed a line once, maybe twice. It explained so much why they felt entitled to my time, my money, my effort. I wasn't just their daughter, I was a resource. I thought of that envelope again. My name, bold in black ink. What had they kept there? Copies? Proof? A ledger of debts I never agreed to carry? I closed the laptop and sat still, staring at the faint rings on my coffee table from years of careless cups. A choice loomed. Confront them, demand answers, pull the scab back and risk the infection underneath, or protect myself quietly, build my walls higher, let their secrets rot on their side of the fence. The old Karen, dependable Karen, would have driven over, slammed the envelope on the table, demanded an explanation. The new Karen, this version rebuilt by salt water and sunlight, chose differently. I froze my credit. I set alerts. I created distance, not confrontation. Because sometimes survival wasn't about fighting. Sometimes it was about refusing to step onto their battlefield at all. Work grounded me again. I landed a promotion, the kind that came with a better salary and a voice in meetings. Tom congratulated me, grinning like a proud mentor. You've earned this, Karen. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. His words landed with an ache. For so long, I'd twisted myself into knots, trying to earn praise from my family that never came. Now here it was, simple, honest, from someone who didn't owe me love but gave respect freely. Jeff flew out for a weekend visit. We walked my city's downtown streets, ducked into coffee shops, shared laughter that felt unforced. He asked about work, my hobbies, my favorite trails. He didn't ask about Mom, Dad, or Linda, except once. Are they leaving you alone? And when I said mostly, he just nodded. No lecture, no pity, just acknowledgement. That night, as we sat on my balcony sipping wine, he told me about his work consulting for family businesses, how money and love often blurred until no one could tell which was which. Sometimes the hardest part, he said, is realizing the people you love don't see the line at all. I thought of Mom's voice on the phone, firm with indignation, not apology. I thought of Linda, wielding the word selfish like a knife. I thought of Dad, silent, complicit, letting the house sag around him while he held the newspaper like a shield. And I thought of that envelope, still there, still waiting. Weeks later, I ran into an old classmate at a grocery store, someone who still lived near my parents. She leaned in, voice hushed but gleeful. So I heard about Florida. Linda said the whole trip got ruined because you flaked. What happened? Her eyes were hungry for gossip. I smiled politely, slipped an avocado into my basket, and said, sometimes things don't go as planned. Nothing more. I walked out of the store with my head high. Let them rewrite the story however they wanted. I wasn't their character anymore. Truth didn't need an audience. But at night, when I lay in bed, the questions pressed like unwelcome hands. What if they're still using your name? What if there are more envelopes? What if you've only seen the surface of the pattern? I couldn't unask those questions, but I could decide not to let them own me. I chose vigilance over vengeance, guardrails over war. And yet, sometimes, when the apartment was too quiet, I saw that manila envelope in my mind, edges fraying, waiting like a dare. A week later, a thin white envelope arrived in my mailbox. No return address, just my name typed neatly on the front. For one rattling second, I thought it might be some bank notice or worse, proof of the fears Aunt Marge had stirred. I carried it inside, sat at the table, and slid it open with the tip of a butter knife. Inside was a check. My mother's handwriting curved across the note. For the money we borrowed. Sorry it took so long. Love, Mom. I stared at the words, tracing each letter as if they might rearrange into something more profound. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't a promise to change. But it was something, an acknowledgement, a tremor of responsibility. For my parents, that felt seismic. I deposited the check the next day, half expecting it to bounce. It didn't. That weekend, I met Aunt Marge for coffee. She slid into the booth with a sigh, her earrings jangling softly. You look better, she said, studying me like she was cataloging evidence. I feel better, I admitted, but also wary. As you should be, she said. She leaned forward. You've got to protect yourself. Freeze your credit, keep an eye out. Love doesn't mean leaving yourself exposed. Her bluntness startled me, but it soothed me too. So you think they'll do it again? She stirred her tea. I think patterns repeat until someone breaks them, and you've already started breaking them. I nodded. I had. In small ways, in big ways. Every choice since Cancun had been a step away from the quicksand of my family's expectations. Later that night, Jeff and I had dinner at a cozy Italian place downtown. Candlelight flickered across his face, warm and steady. Halfway through our pasta, he asked, Any new family drama? I shook my head, sipping wine. Not drama, just gestures. A check, a note. Progress, he asked. Maybe, or maybe bait. I twirled noodles on my fork. Either way, I've decided if they want me in their lives, it has to be on new terms. Clear asks, no lies, no guilt trips, reciprocity only. He raised his glass. To no more auditions for love. We clinked, the sound sharp and bright. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. A photo of Zoe with jam on her cheeks captioned, She says hi, Aunt Karen. No demand, no blame, just a slice of ordinary life. For a long time, I didn't reply. Then finally I typed, Hi Zoe, she's getting so big. I pressed send, measured warmth, nothing more. It felt like balancing on a wire, acknowledging without surrendering, giving without erasing myself. That afternoon, I went for a hike alone. The trail climbed through pines, the air sharp with resin. At the overlook, the valley spread below, stitched with roads and roofs. I sat on a boulder and thought about choice. I couldn't choose the family I was born into. But I could choose how much of myself to give them. I could choose when to answer, when to stay silent, when to forgive, when to hold the line. And I could choose the family I built, the friends who valued me, the career that fulfilled me, the relationship that felt like partnership, not penance. As the sun dipped, I heard the ocean in the wind, though it was miles away, the same sound that had steadied me in Cancun. Freedom had a sound, and once you recognized it, you couldn't mistake it. When I hiked back down, my phone buzzed with another message, this time from Linda. The kids miss you. No apology, no admission, just a tug on the old rope. I looked at the words, then at the trail stretching ahead of me. I slipped the phone back into my pocket without replying. Some doors stayed shut for a reason. That night, Jeff came over with takeout. We sat on the couch, cartons spread across the coffee table, laughter threading between us. He asked me about work, about a book I was reading, about whether I wanted to plan a trip together. Not once did he ask me to explain or justify myself. I realized then I didn't need grand reconciliations or cinematic apologies. What I needed was this, space to breathe, to grow, to be seen without being drained. The envelope back home, the check, the texts, they were all pieces of a puzzle I might never finish, and maybe that was fine. Some pictures didn't need completing. Some families didn't need fixing. As I leaned against Jeff's shoulder, chopsticks tapping against a carton, I whispered something I hadn't allowed myself to believe for years. I'm okay. And this time I meant it.